welcome Kenny Jacobs to the first Datalex Discusses. 15-minute chat together. You're off in the nether regions of San Diego, I believe, so it's great to have you live and online. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Alison.
So Kenny, look, you're Mr. Retail, big stellar career behind you in retailing, including at Tesco, but you're probably best known to this audience as the man who really transformed customer experience at Ryanair. You left there about 18 months ago, and Michael O'Leary said you had transformed Ryanair's digital presence and customer service, which is praise from the man himself indeed. So you're the right person to talk to today. So just wanted to ask you some general questions about what airlines can be doing. So the first thing is really, what are your thoughts around the retail mindset? You know, do airlines hold themselves back because they don't have that mindset, or because they've got a lack of familiarity generally around retailing?
Yeah, I still think airlines can take a retailing mindset and use it to kind of make more money, which is ultimately what they should use it for. I was amazed as someone coming in from retail into an airline to see the potential, and there was a lot of potential at Ryanair. Some of it was knocking off the rough edges. Some of it was just better merchandising of the products you have, doing things like unbundling, really catching up on digital and then getting ahead on digital. But I'm still amazed that there are airlines out there who don't get that. I think they're first probably not getting digital enough. And I think first, if you embrace digital and say, I want to own more of my own distribution, I want to really take control of the customer data and really be able to target customers in a different way using digital, then that leads you on to better retail. I think some of the things that hold it back are just leadership, just the mindset of the executives running airlines. I think structure I've seen can be an issue. So I think an airline should have a digital and marketing team that are responsible for revenue, or a part of revenue, probably ancillary revenue, at least working closely with commercial, who are traditionally responsible for fares, and also working with IT. If the website and the app is given over to IT and no one from the commercial side of the business has anything to do with it, I don't think you're going to end up with a great website or app. But good digital and good retail go hand in hand. There is still plenty for airlines to do to really take more of that, do it better, make more money from it.
Yes, we talked about some of the challenges there, organizational structure, that kind of disconnect the silos within the airlines themselves. What other challenges do you think that they have? And to counter that then, have you seen airlines do retail well, apart from Ryanair, obviously? And, and have you got a couple of examples that you might quote?
Yeah, no, like outside of Ryanair, I think Aer Lingus has a really good website, and it's still got, got a backbone Amadeus system. I would say the same about Vueling, and they are two airlines, because people will say, yeah, Ryanair is different. You do it all yourselves, and you've got almost 100% direct distribution. But I think there are two other airlines, and I would say Southwest, and I would say Wizz on the LCC side. So they're airlines, I think, that look, ultimately it's just about they have a good website and they have a good app. They have really good CRM, because that's what customers see, and they own more of their distribution, and they want to own more of their distribution. So there are some examples of, I think, airlines who can get it right, even with the traditional backbone of an Amadeus or a Sabre. There, they found ways to merchandise better, to communicate better, do better UX, do better UI, do better targeting, do more dynamic pricing. So those airlines can do it, other airlines can do it.
Do you think it has to be a decision at kind of top level to go for it? And if it doesn't happen, is it sometimes that hasn't been accepted?
Absolutely. I think the person running the airline, so the CEO, has to make digital a priority. I mean, they should be thinking, how can I reduce cost? And that's a priority for airline CEOs. You can reduce cost by having more of your distribution come direct, so you're converting more of your own customers rather than coming via travel agents, via GDS, via OTAs. So wanting to own more of your distribution means you lower cost, you increase the value of your own data asset on your customers, and you can do better retargeting. But it's got to be, I don't think it has to be driven by the CEO. Like in Ryanair, Michael O'Leary gets digital, but he's not someone who said, I want to totally get it and drive it. You bring in the right people who can do that, and you let them get on with it. You structure the organization in such a way that they can get on with it. If you've got marketing and digital not together, that's a problem. If you've got marketing and digital fighting with commercial, fighting with IT, it's going to take a long time. If the backdrop to that is you've got external partners and external booking engines who have quite a lot of power and sway, then it's just going to take more time than it should.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So look, we've been through a couple of really rocky years, both in terms of COVID-19, geopolitically as well. It makes it really difficult for airlines to monitor and plan for demand. So where do you think digital comes in generally around helping in that area?
I think it's still about getting the basics right all of the time. And there's still plenty to do there, and it's boring. And I see some airlines chasing the new shiny stuff, but really you have to get the basics right. I think 2022, and particularly the summer period that we're now in, and we saw this from Easter, and we're going to see it all the way through to October. Airports are short of staff, airlines are short of staff, people are cancelling flights. Consumers are being advised to come to airports 3 and 4.5 hours before you travel. So other than the basics, I think digital can play a huge role on the day of travel.
Mm-hmm.
Advising customers of wait times, advising customers what their gates are, how busy the airport is parking at the airport available or not. All of this is information that you can present to customers in mobile, and I would be really spending more time doing that, and I would be spending more time allowing customers to do self-service if flights have to be cancelled. Flights will be cancelled in the coming 6 months. So don't do what you were doing pre-pandemic of just emailing them and then leaving it to a call center somewhere far away to pick up the pieces a few days later. Let people book onto the next flight or automatically rebook them onto the next flight. And if they're not happy with that, give their options in the app. So I think the day of travel and doing anything you can to provide information to take stress out of the day of travel and what's going to be a stressful 6 months for the reasons that I've outlined, customer self-service, and then doing the basics really, really well. That's what I would focus on rather than really, exotic, shiny, cool new stuff on content, on presentation. Just give them the basics because everybody's braced for a stressful travel 6 months.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, spot on. And it's very hard to, people do get distracted by the shiny things and forget the basics, right? And it really is about a basic experience. We've been seeing that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to earn the right for consumers to say, "Well, I will engage with your app and content when I'm on the flight." But you know what? Getting myself into that seat is really, really important. And people are missing flights left, right, and center. And airports are chock-a-block, and they haven't been for 2 years. And that was just Easter. So it's only going to get worse. And the staffing issues, every airline I'm talking to saying they have staffing issues, crew and pilots, airports have staffing issues. So digital can play a role, and it's not a sexy role, but it's a role that will be really, really appreciated by consumers if you just get them to the seat as best you can on time and give them those helpful nudges along the way on how they can do that.
Yeah, no, I think, and actually we've had a couple of questions in from the audience. One of them kind of ties into that type thing you're talking about. So it is, how do you service customers in a digital world with more and more complex offers out there? Somehow easy to package and sell, but servicing during disruptions and equally during high demand and this type of uncertain time. And in a geopolitically unstable world makes this part of the equation ever so complex.
So it's really important. It is more complex, but you just have to develop the functionality that exists and put that on the website and put that on the app. I think, Ryanair have done a good example of using the pandemic to develop a full self-service module in the Ryanair app. I know Aer Lingus myself, having had a flight cancelled and having to rebook, I thought they did a good job recently. So you just have to develop the functionality. You have to invest in UX and UI to present it well on the website and in the app, and just give consumers those options. Your own customer service staff will thank you for it because you're just taking some of the most basic queries that don't need to be phone calls and allowing customers do what they want to do, which is just say, okay, that flight isn't going. My option A is to be rebooked onto the next one. Yes, I'll take that. Or if I'm taking a flight credit, just give them that option. A bit of work needs to be done on the account function. So you want more of your consumers logged in so that they have an account function, passport details there, COVID search should be there, antigen tests should be there, etc. All the documentation that you need. And if you have any flight credits because of cancellations, have them there. That will get consumers wanting to engage with your customer service module more because all of their key information is there.
Is there? Yeah, no, perfect. The other side then is around pricing, right, and fares. And obviously there's a lot of demand, and we know there's a lot less seats than people might even think when they go to book that summer holiday. And we're investing ourselves in, obviously, AI powered pricing. What's your thoughts around pricing generally? And, will enabling that type of AI powered pricing actually give airlines a lead in terms of their competitive positioning once we come out the far side of all of this?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I'd see it in two ways. I think it's AI. It's using AI to have better pricing, more data-driven pricing, better version of dynamic pricing on both fares and ancillary. I think every legacy carrier should be looking to use it on the pricing of ancillaries because they are more sophisticated than LCCs traditionally on fares. But LCC should be using AI to look at pricing on the fare side. And I know some are, and they're really making good progress. You will really tell in the winter onwards because look, every airline is going to have a bumper summer on revenues. Some of them are going to think, no, revenue management is fine. We don't need to do anything on fares and ancillary because look at all this extra money we've made. Don't believe that. Everyone is going to make great money all the way up until October. It's from the winter onwards when demand slackens off a bit that's when you can really use and prove that AI pricing on both fares and ancillary is going to really help you drive margin. Would I call it customer centric? I probably wouldn't because ultimately it's about making more money per person, and that's fine. I think airlines should embrace it. One thing I think they should look at as part of using AI to drive pricing is customer specific discounting. So if you have it's the same thing flipped, just so you can say, here's Alison who's flying with us every fortnight. She's now suddenly stopped flying with us. I think being able to give an individual customer or a target group of customers a specific discount, I think is an interesting flip on the dynamic pricing side and using AI to ultimately try to make more money from them, but just using pricing to keep customers flying with you on a frequent basis.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. In terms of the tech, right, we talk a lot about legacy tech, antique tech, all of that's there. And airlines are investing in their technologies. And, it's a bit of a spaghetti junction around everything that they use. And they're trying to streamline all of that. And one of the questions we had was a lot of discussion around the need to move to one or new order. And obviously with your retailing background, that's just, your fluent language. Is there anybody who's making real progress with this that you can see? Any lessons we can learn? Are we off?
I wouldn't put all my eggs in that one basket. I think, look, it's obvious and it has to happen. I hear some airlines saying, well, no, all our other digital projects are going to connect and link to that and be dependent on that. And I would say, no, don't wait. If you're trying to get the industry and everybody to move in one direction with one order, it's going to take some time. I think there are plenty of other digital priorities. And my advice would be just get on with those. Absolutely have it on the list as a key priority, but you don't fully control when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. So do everything else that you can control in the meantime and just get on with it.
So what would your top two priorities be, right? You've got a brand new airline in your chart.
Yeah.
What would your top two be?
Priority this year, if I'm flying a lot of customers, would be day of travel and self-service. So really that's going to, I think, earn you great kudos and great respect from your consumers, be they leisure, even business travelers. Looking beyond then this year, the key thing I would work on is just the ongoing retail bit that you should be working on. So owning more of your distribution, getting more of your customers to sign up to your emails because it lowers your marketing costs, unbundling your fares for the new world that we live in. So a world where you have less business travel, more leisure travel, where you've got bigger aircraft going on traditional leisure routes. I would do more of the unbundling. I would be selling all the ancillary products that I possibly can and look at the ones that Ryanair and Wizz are selling and just emulate and replicate those and price up those and just be better for that ongoing grind of good digital, good retailing, owning more of the distribution and selling more products to more of the customers you have in an unbundled way, but looking at it in a post-pandemic way where leisure matters. Short haul is going to dominate for a period of time, and it's going to take longer for business travel to come back.
Yeah, agree. So one last question, Kenny, and this is from somebody who I believe may have worked at Ryanair once upon a time. What does Kenny think of Ryanair now post-pandemic? Right? How have they come through it? How would you rate them?
They've come through it really, really well. Look, Ryanair will always use a crisis extremely well. I think they absolutely have done that. They've grown in terms of market share. I think Ryanair is now the fourth biggest airline in the world post-pandemic. They're taking new aircraft, flying new aircraft. They've reduced cost, which any good airline should have done through the pandemic while waiting. So looking at airport deals and everything else. So I think Ryanair is absolutely set up for success in the coming years in terms of winning market share, being absolutely bigger than it was. Every airline will be focused on this summer, and I know Ryanair will be focused on this summer. And how do we deal with bad German ATC, bad French ATC, staffing issues, and really, really get through it. So I think they'll be absolutely driving on and going forward post-pandemic.
Perfect. Listen, Kenny, thank you. I could stay on talking to you for hours. The whole point of it is it's 15 minutes. Really enjoyed it, and thank you again, and all the best to you.
Thanks, Alison.